some questions for you. Hey, brave girl, how you do the things that you do?
Welcome to the Brave Talk Show. Brave women, bold topics, nothing is off the table. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to be a thriving single mom. This is going to be a great episode for our single mom audience, but also for the moms out there who have single friends who that they can support with all of the amazing tips we're going to learn today. We're actually interviewing an amazing woman, Jennifer Watson. It's going to be a powerful episode, so if you like it as much as we think you will, smash that subscribe button so that you can connect with us on future episodes as well. Before we jump into our interview, though, we're going to be jumping into our favorite segment, which is our either hot topic or truth or dare. We kind of do fun stuff like that. And I have a question for you ladies. Given that we're talking about motherhood today, in that context, I wanted to know what your biggest mom fail has been. Like, out of all the things you've ever done that you've messed up on as a mom, like, what would be the one that's like up there? Like, it hurt to think about it, you know? Like, oh, why did I do that?
I wish there was only one.
I know. I had to have a few that I had to kind of vet before I decided.
mom fail every day. I have a lot of little mom fails where I'm like, oh, I overreacted, or oh, I didn't discipline how I wanted, or oh, I need to go say sorry. So I'm really working on that. And as we talked before, I'm big on like apologizing to your kids and getting on their level and showing that you're imperfect. But as I was thinking about the biggest mom fail for me right now is I have been really struggling with the fact that the divorce, like I feel like I failed my children, and that's been really hard for me. And I know that's not the truth, obviously, but watching your kids struggle and go back and forth between mom and dad's house, I'm like, I failed. Like, I just was supposed to have this beautiful family and we were all supposed to stay together, and I'm a failure. And I know that isn't necessarily a failure, but I'm trying to work through that and remind myself, like, what's good for me is good for the kids, what's good for their dad is good for them. And we're doing hard things and we're working through it, but I am definitely struggling with the fact that there is a part of me that feels like I failed.
Well, you're not a failure.
No, you're not. But I can totally understand how you could feel that way in those times. And
yeah, you don't want your kids to be kids of divorced parents.
Right, like we didn't get married with the intention of anything, those things happening,
we didn't plan on this, and like,
but also sometimes divorce may be the best.
I know, and it is, and they're going to thrive and they're going to learn so many great things. But if any mom or dad is out there going through a divorce or just recently divorced, like, you can probably understand that you kind of feel like you failed. Like you had your family's broken apart, and even some people have told me that I failed, you know, and so. Just know you didn't, and it's okay to feel like that, and you'll get over it. Not there yet, but we're
hard
through it.
We're going to do it.
It's so hard.
It is hard, but I mean, not to bring the energy down, but
well, we were talking about other mom fails. Yeah, what are some other mom fails?
You know, I'm trying to think. I feel like mine were
bring
little.
the house down. Teresa?
Okay, so mine is I had babies back to back, and so it can be really hard when you got babies back to back because there's just so many different things happening. And so forth. So my biggest mom fail was I didn't have Scotland yet, so I had my 3 boys, and I had 2 of them pretty close. So I had, at this point, Kanan, my oldest, who was probably about, I'm thinking like 5 or 6 years old at this point. Jameson was 1 when Benjamin was born. Okay, so it was right around this time period. And I needed to take Jameson to the pediatrician for probably a wellness check or something like that. And Benjamin, who was a newborn, I don't know how newborn he was at this time, I'm trying to remember, but he was still in the, like, sitting in the baby care, sleeping a lot, you know, sleeping in the baby care, baby seat, facing backwards in the back seat kind of situation. And he didn't nap very well, and he was sleeping, and it was like one of those moments where it's like, I need him to sleep. You know, this is like a precious moment, and it's like, okay, Kanan, you're 6, like, you're fine. It's not a hot day. You know, it was shady. Like, I'm not gonna be the mom that like leaves her kid in a hot car kind of a situation. It's shady. It's right outside. I'm right there. The doctor's office is right there. I'm just gonna go and bring the baby in. Kanan, if you need me, I'm right there. Can you stay in the car with the baby so he can sleep? So, you know, my sweet compliant son said yes, and I went in and took Jameson in for his well check. And came back out and got in the car, and Kanan was crying. And I'm like, what's going on? And he was like, I pooped my pants. Like, he was so upset. I'm like, why did you poop your pants? He's like, I had to go to the bathroom and I couldn't leave the car because I had to stay here, and I tried waking up Benjamin and he wouldn't wake up, and I didn't know what to do, and I pooped my pants. And he was just so embarrassed, and he was angry. He was mad at me, and it was one of those moments where I cried. Like, I felt so bad. Like, why did I leave my kids in the car? Like, he wasn't old enough to obviously be enough to like know that he could step out and open the door and say, Mom, can you come out here so I can use the restroom? And I overestimated his ability to make a mature decision like that, and then left him in a place where he embarrassed himself, and I just felt so awful. I apologized to him. I think I even took him out after we cleaned up his pants, and I think I took him out for like an ice cream or something.
Like, you owe me.
Because I'm definitely like, I'm a big like you in making sure to apologize to your kids, you know? So yeah, super embarrassing mom fail for me.
Mine was, I know, so many. One of mine was, so I lose my temper sometimes. I've tried to get better at it. That's one of the things that I've really tried to focus on, because I've noticed as my kids were little, like, I have a temper. I usually don't, but they know how to trigger it in me, and I'll lose it.
I've never
I'll lose
seen
my
it because
cool.
you seem like such a sweet person.
I
to
know,
me.
right? My poor kids, they're like, no, Mom has a temper. So I've been trying to work on it. Like, I've learned never to hit my kids when I'm angry. Like, never, ever, ever. And I learned that the hard way. But I think one of my big mom fails lately has been swearing in front of my kids, which is so funny because I never swear. Like,
What's your swear word? Is it the S word?
Oh, damn it is my word now. And it's so bad. Like, I grew up never swearing. Like, I remember making my husband list, and it was like, never swears. And I would never, ever swear. And then now, all of a sudden, in the last, 5 years, it's become, really empowering for me to swear. I'm like, it actually feels really good. Like, it, releases something in me. I don't know. But so there have been a few times where my kids have made me so mad, where I'll be like, damn it! And my kids are like, Mom! And my oldest has come sobbing to me, and I'm like, what's wrong? I'm sorry. And she's like, you swore. And I'm like, that's why you're crying, is because I swore? And she's like, yes, it makes me feel so bad. And I'm like, oh, I've got to figure out another way to release that stress without upsetting my kids.
But listen though, the thing about it though, it's like, I know it's like, oh, we don't swear, right? But there's something that's coming out of you for a reason that you've been holding on. And I think the way you can teach her, it's like, it's not at you, it's not intended at you. It's just that I get frustrated. Of course, we will be better with our kids, but I think it's also teaching her it's gonna happen, but I need to do better. I'll work on it, but just know it's not at you.
Well, I've learned since that she swears now.
Actually, that's one of my. I'm actually mortified.
I learned it from you, Mom. I learned it from you.
That's exactly what she told me. She's like, well, you swear, so. And I'm like, oh, crap.
Yeah, that's actually now triggering. I know my mom fell, and it's too mortifying to even.
Oh, no.
It's about a child saying a very bad word because I said a very bad word.
Is it the F word?
Uh-huh.
You dropped an F bomb?
I also never swore. I wouldn't even say poop, growing up. And I became a sailor the last couple of years, but I am now okay, no more, Robin.
Pulling
so
it back
I'm
in.
trying.
Yeah.
But there was a moment in time where I would swear a lot, and I did say the F word once or twice. And in the back seat of my car, we were driving a couple months ago, and my 10-year-old daughter was frustrated, and all of a sudden I hear, and I was like, oh, and I was like, oh, why did you say that? She's like, you said it. And I'm like, I am so sorry. Mom will never say that. I was mortified. That's my biggest mom fail.
You know
my
what,
10-year-old dropped the F-bomb.
I will tell my kids, though, and I've cussed before with them. I'm not a huge cusser, but I've definitely had a couple of moments. In the end, it's an adult word.
Yeah.
It's an adult word, and just because I said it doesn't mean that you get to say it. You are a kid. When you get to be of age at appropriate moments in life, sometimes there are moments where it calls for a cuss word, and you will be an adult enough and mature enough to know when those situations come up. But as a child, you do not know how to make those decisions.
That's a good explanation. I love that.
And I am a failing mother because I dropped the F word.
We don't swear, but Nehemiah,
At least it was a one-time thing. Apparently mine is all the time. My daughter swears now.
It's pretty vulgar. Hearing that
Yeah,
out of your
I'm a kid, you like.
and she's frustrated. She's I'm like,
She used it right.
She used it right. I was impressed, but mortified that
That she even knows the context.
Yeah.
I have a hard time even when I hear, because I say crap. To me, it's not a cuss word. I don't
can't
care.
say the F word. It's hard for me.
But my kids say crap, and I'm not going to tell them not to. But at first, it was hard. I was like, crap's kind of borderline there. But I've come to a place where I'm okay with them saying crap. But that's me.
Yeah.
Nehemiah.
Don't
I
go to
know where
Robin's
he-
house.
I don't know
Yeah, don't go to
where he
Robin's
gets
house.
it. We don't
Loose
swear,
talk.
but he'd be like, "What the fuck?" I'm like,
Who
Probably
said
from
that?
Nehemiah.
Nehemiah did?
I don't know,
He just
but-
turned 6.
He heard it somewhere.
Oh, they're gonna hear it. As
We
a
don't
thing.
swear. So
It's just
but
a mom
he
fail
heard
because
it.
she heard it from me.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
It's like what? It's like, and your host did not do swear. Yeah, my husband. He's like, we don't say that. It's like this whole like speech.
Sit down, family
I'm like,
meeting.
we don't talk like that.
My daughter now is like starting to say words like "that's so cringe" or like "that's
Oh,
sus,"
gosh.
like suspicious. I'm
Oh,
like, you are
sus.
10.
Yeah.
My kid says that.
Stop talking like that. Like, where do you
My
learn
5-year-old
that?
thinks yeet is an actual word in the dictionary.
Yeet.
He uses it, and I'm like, that's just okay.
Yeah.
That's a word in our house now.
Yep. So just for your followers, I don't say that anymore. I'm cleaning up my vocabulary. but-
I want to hear Vanessa's fail.
yeah.
Fail. I feel like I don't have too many. Like I have little every day. I have like fail that happens, little things. But I think my biggest one, I think it's
Biggest
not-
little, yeah.
I don't think it's like disappointing because I speak 3 languages and I feel like I got lazy with my kids where I didn't teach them anything. So now I'm just like, oh man.
Do you feel like you
failed
failed 'cause they
them
don't
in that
speak
because like I'm
more
on the
than
phone
one
with my
language?
family and I'm speaking in like
Haitian.
now that like Nehemiah is super interested. Like if I'm speaking French and like he's like, what are you saying? Teach me words. And I just feel like, oh dang it, I could have. And then when I go hang out with my Haitian friend, the kids are speaking and they have like no clue. And so it's like, I wish I could have like good. So now we're like, okay, we're going to work on it. We're gonna learn. And so I'm hoping. So that's how I feel like I feel, especially when we go around like
Other
our
kids who
Haitian
speak
friends.
different languages,
Yeah,
and you're like,
it's
I
like
should have taught them.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, I failed them. Even my husband's like, you should have taught us. And I'm like, I know.
I was busy having babies.
I didn't know you
breastfeeding
spoke
and
3
working
languages.
and-
I do,
That is so
I do.
cool.
Haitian, French, and English.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow, I love it. Now, is it French because in Haiti there's a lot of French speakers, or
No, or all our books are in French, and then we speak Creole.
Got it.
So yeah, and then so French is like a language. That's how we you have to pass French in school too. Yeah, so it's
So are you fluent in all 3? Wow, that's impressive. Very
Oh,
impressive.
Bonjour.
Next episode, you introduce yourself in French.
I only know to say bonjour and voulez-vous français.
Je suis. Isn't it je suis? Je suis is I am.
Yeah.
There we
See,
go.
I took French. There you go. That's my proof.
Well, I'm ready to jump into this episode.
Yes.
Let's do it.
All right, so let's jump into the heart of our episode today, and that is how to be a thriving single mom. And we're talking today with my good friend Jennifer Watson, who's an example of just how to do it all. She's a senior social media manager at Active Campaign, which is actually an email system that my business uses. She's an Emmy award-winning meteorologist on the Weather Channel. She's got a couple shows we're going to talk about that she does on there. She's a speaker and a podcaster. She does it all, and she does it while taking care of her 5-year-old daughter, and she does such an amazing job at just showing how to do it. So we're really excited to be able to talk with her today to just get some advice for our single mom audience and also for our moms out there who aren't, but we have single mom friends that we can be supportive to, that we can share this episode with, and just be, just grow closer together as women, which is really the heart of this show. That's what we really want to do on this show. So Jennifer, we are so thankful to have you on today.
Welcome.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm pumped for this conversation.
Yeah, so before we even jump into the single mom side, I am very intrigued by what you're doing with your career. You're on the Weather Channel, you are Emmy award-winning meteorologist. Like, how did that happen? What's going on with your career, girl?
All sorts of things. So I actually went to college to originally be a nutritionist, a dietitian. But I realized after 1 year that's not what I wanted to do or be. So I tried a couple other things. And then one of my friends was like, Jen, you love weather so much. Why don't you make it your career? So I did that, got my undergrad, got my master's degree as well. I worked in local TV for 5 years, then transitioned to the Weather Channel where I worked full time. I did different live shows for them. I was their social media specialist. I also was their content meteorological producer as well for one of the shows for about 8 months. So it was a lot of fun. I got to geek out. And then once I had my little daughter. It was just really hard with the crazy schedule, commute in Atlanta. If anyone lives in Atlanta, you know how bad the traffic can be. And so I got a position where I could work from home, but still do the shows that I love on the Weather Channel, which is Weather Gone Viral and Weird Earth. So I am a full-time senior social media manager at Active Campaign, but then part-time I do the 2 different shows for the Weather Channel, and then I also speak on stages as well. I have a weather podcast, Stormfront Freaks. If anybody is a weather geek, you can listen to that. So I do a whole variety of things.
Amazing.
Wow.
Wow.
And you do all that with a 5-year-old.
I do. It's a little crazy sometimes. And she does join in on the podcast recordings sometimes. She joined for the first time. I brought her into one of the shoots for the Weather Channel, and she was amazing. They were an incredible team. The director actually brought her in and was just like, okay, Zara, so how do you feel about that clip? How do you feel about this? And so it was amazing for her to see what I do for a living, but it can be hectic sometimes. I mean, it can be crazy because you're raising a human being, right? And so all the experiences that you give to them are how they're going to grow up and learn. And so you always have to try and be strategic, and it's easy to get burnout. I've been burnt out so many times. So I have kind of a method that I use to make sure I don't get burnout and she gets the best of me.
Well, tell us.
Yeah, I want to know the burnout.
What's the method?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things is I make sure I eat right. That's one of the hardest things to do. And it's so easy when you're like busy, with meetings and work and just rushing around. You just grab something random when you have 5 minutes and it's not healthy, right? And it doesn't make you feel good. So I still love, I originally went to school to be a nutritionist dietitian. So I still keep an eye on what I eat. I have smoothies every day. I monitor the vegetable intake, the fruit intake, along with what my daughter eats too. I try to give her an example. And one of the things that I learned in nutrition school, as well as, or 1 year of nutrition, but just as well as just trying to live healthy, is you have to eat the rainbow. And so what I do to make sure she eats healthy as well is I have a plate of fruit, and it's literally, I have bananas for yellow, I've got blueberries for blue, strawberries for red. I just do all the colors of the rainbow, carrots for orange. And so we eat the rainbow together every single day. And, we do different other things. She helps me cook, but I try to make sure that she has healthy habits and she kind of follows my routine and we do it together. A lot of parents, I think just in general, whether you're a single parent or not, you allow the kid to run the show, and that's not what it should be. If you love hiking, incorporate them in your hiking routine as early as you can, when they're a couple months old. Mm-hmm. You want the things that you love, you want to maintain that, but also introduce them to that as well. So you can do it together and be happy. And it's not just this, it's what they want to do versus what you want to do. You want to try and blend it all together. If they have different interests, make sure you encourage them to do that.
Jen, I love that. I'm actually a new recent single mother of 4, and
oh my gosh,
I felt like you were
amazing, by the way. You're amazing.
Oh well, but I've actually noticed that I am not eating well. Sometimes I don't eat at all because it's so busy. And when you said that, I was like, oh, she's talking to me. I have low energy. I'm getting hangry. I have got to make eating a priority. So. Thank you. Yeah. That was a great reminder for me.
But if you think about it too, being busy mom, and for the both of you, is that also give you quality time during that time when you're getting breakfast together and eating together. It's if you have to have a busy day, that's that time you get to spend that one-on-one with them. Right. So I think that's also awesome.
I love that.
Shifting our thinking from, okay, you guys play while I cook dinner, and then you're like, oh, I never got to spend time with them because I was busy doing the laundry and doing this and doing that, and it's no, just bring them in, and now that's the experience. Yeah, that's good.
I love that. That's gonna be something.
Kind of create it like a science experiment too, because I'm a geeky scientist as well. But and one thing to say, when you're a single parent, you're on 100% of the time. If you're having a bad day, you've got bad news, you have a migraine. I started getting migraines once the pandemic hit, and I think it was from stress, but it can be difficult. And it's okay to put on a movie so you can relax and rest. It's okay. I was trying to restrict my daughter so much from just watching TV in general or being on a tablet. I'm like, we're going to do things. We're going to do arts and crafts, make things. But then one of my friends was like, Jen, it's okay. She can watch a movie, so you can just relax for a minute. And so I've learned that it's okay in moderation.
Again, she's talking to me, the screen time Nazi, because I'm same thing. I'm like, we don't do screen times, and I'm like, I think I just need to give them more screen time.
We just did an episode on that this last
we
week
just
with
did.
on
We just
screen
did
time.
that. Yeah. Jen, do you ever battle mom guilt?
Oh my gosh, every day.
How do you
Every
deal with
day.
that?
It's such a struggle. And my sister, she gave me some of the best advice. She's like, Jen, does your daughter have food? I'm like, yes. Does she have a roof over her head? Yes. She's like, then you're doing great. You're doing awesome. Sometimes, you have moments where like, am I really being a good mom? You struggle so much. And you got to understand that you're doing great. You're doing awesome. You're doing so much better than you realize and you think. And one thing I've learned to do is lean on my friends and ask for help if I need it. I have a lot of friends that, they're not a single mom like me. They're like, Jen, if you just need an hour to go to the grocery store or just an hour to yourself, tell us. And before I'd be like, well, I feel like it seems like I'm not strong or I can't handle that if I ask for help or I take help. But now I'm like, sure, when can I bring her over? Or yes, let's do it like twice a week. Because I realize it does take a tribe, right? To raise a child. And I like her having different experiences as well. So I've learned it's okay to ask for help and to ask for help. Otherwise, you're just going to get burnt out and your kids aren't going to get your best self.
So what is it that you do during those couple of times a week where you have friends stepping in and helping out, watching your daughter? What are you doing during that time?
The biggest thing I do is nap. I'm like, I need to catch up on some sleep. But other than that, I like to hike and I like to work out. And I want to incorporate Zara in that. And it can be hard a little bit just because she's so small. She's still 5. She's getting a little bit more endurance. But sometimes I like to go a little bit harder in my workouts. And I like to be in nature. It just clears my mind. And I don't have to like really go for a hard run or anything. Just like hiking and being able to take a deep breath and reflect and be grateful for everything I have is what I like to do. So I like to take that time for myself.
Wonderful. Okay, so we got a couple of things. We got eat right. We got incorporate your kids into your life so that you're maintaining that life. So if you like to hike, bring your kids hiking, like that kind of a thing. Bringing them in on, some of the other things like making dinner and that kind of a thing. Asking for help. And then the last one, I'm already like missing on this last one here. And then making sure that you take time for yourself to do the things that you love during those break times, whether that's taking a nap or going hiking by yourself. And
doing a hobby.
Yeah. I love it.
And one of the biggest things I used to struggle with, and I know this sounds terrible, but just washing my face at night and brushing my teeth, my normal self-care routine, like I would be so exhausted after putting my daughter down that I would then just collapse in my room after I got her down and I would just pass out without washing my face or brushing my teeth. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't do, I know it's like basic things, but it's just like, you are so exhausted, especially those first 2 years. You're just like, how am I going to do it? So now I show her that I'm taking care of myself and she joins me like, at 7 o'clock in the evening, right after dinner, I wash my face. I like clear of makeup, I brush my teeth too, and I show her that I'm taking care of myself. And so we kind of do it together. I have to incorporate her in everything because if I just take care of her all day, then I don't take care of myself.
I love that.
Yep.
You're being such a great example to your daughter by being an empowered woman and that whether you're alone or with a partner, you are taking care of both of you. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, that's true. And even bringing her on the set at work. I think that's such a cool idea because then she gets to see you in your career and, that's going to open her mind to like the possibilities for her own career or whether she has one or something else, but just seeing what's possible, right?
Well, plus I think it's important for kids to see that when you leave, there's something that you go to do so that they can associate. Mom's not leaving because she wants to leave me. Mom's leaving because she has this to do, and this is what she's doing while she's gone. I think that's really great for kids to have concrete in their head. Mom's going, like this morning when I left my kids, they're like, Mommy, what are you doing today? I'm like, oh, I'm doing the talk show. Oh, you're doing the talk show today. So they know exactly where I am, exactly what I'm doing. There's no like ambiguity around like, oh, where does mom go? Mom leaves me and you know what I mean? I'm alone.
And I think it also helps them get out of like an egocentric mindset, which I think can be natural for kids where, mom revolves around me in my life, and not recognizing there's other things outside of just me. I know when I was little, I used to think that my teachers must have like slept in their classroom and then like woke up the next morning and then taught again. Like when I saw a teacher at the grocery store, it was like, wait, you go grocery shopping? Yeah. So that kind of a thing. Okay, so you also co-parent, don't you?
I do. Yes.
Okay.
And that can be a
so
struggle.
yes, I have friends who have their horror stories about co-parenting. I have some friends who have had really positive experiences. I've had for the most part, pretty positive experience with co-parenting my oldest son with his dad. But I would love to hear from you what that experience has been like. Like, what are some hurdles you've overcome? What are some tips that you have to help our single mom friends be able to navigate that better?
I think the biggest thing you have to do is, I've had, some bad moments and some good moments as well, is just when you're talking to the other parent, it's not about, each other. It's about her. What's best for Zara? And you have to push the egos aside and everything. And when I think of Zara and the childhood memories she has, I want her to have like one big happy family, right? I want her to think like, wow, I'm so lucky to have a bonus mom, a bonus dad. We're doing all things together. Yes, mom and dad, they realize they weren't maybe the perfect fit, but they still love each other and respect each other. And now I get 2 different families, right? And I have 4 sets of grandparents. And so we try to make that happen. It can be difficult if you're either still going through a divorce, custody battle. It can be brutal, but what I've learned is you just kind of let it go, no matter what the reaction of maybe, the couple, like the father of the child and maybe their girlfriend or whoever it is, how they react toward you is a reflection of themselves, right? It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them. And that's one of the hardest things that I've had to overcome, where I tend to take things personally. I try so hard, even when it's my holidays. I'm like, you can join us. My family will welcome you. Like, please join us. Or I would love to have you for Christmas morning, or whatever that looks like. But, sometimes there's tension and other things. And I just realize, and this is like in general, whether it's, trying to co-parent or anything in life, how someone reacts towards you has nothing to do with you, everything to do with them. And so I've had to just kind of, when there are tough moments, I'm like, okay, that's their situation. Again, I'm doing the best that I can. I figure out, can I be doing something else better or different? And if I can't, I just have to let it go. I can't let it bother me. And I just move on. And that's been one of the hardest things. Like, I've had to be very strong in that aspect of when it comes to being a single mom, because it can be really, really difficult sometimes. But, I just do the best I can, and it will show. People will see it, and your daughter, your kids will see it too, because they know that you're trying to make things as happy and as good as it can possibly be.
That's great advice. I am just starting, a couple months now, co-parenting, and you're right. It's so hard. Like, it's so hard sometimes when you're not feeling great about the ex, but like there's kids still involved, and I've had to do the same thing, like step into my power and be like, it's all about the kids. Don't take it personally, but I also feel like this is my chance to like set the foundation for a beautiful co-parenting experience. And I have siblings who are divorced, and their co-parenting experience is not fun. They're always talking trash on each other, and it's like chaotic. And I'm like, I cannot do that. I will not do that. So I love your advice, and I appreciate that. And I can relate that you have to be really strong on moments when people aren't being nice, or you feel hurt, and you just have to remember, do it for the kids.
But then it's really rough on the kids if you think about it. If you are always like bickering and fighting, and it's like the children feel it. And I think sometimes parents doesn't understand that the child is the one that's been affected by it all.
Right.
And so you can see co-parenting work when the interest of the child is put as the priority and all the other stuff put aside. Then it doesn't affect the children. I think if everybody can keep that in mind, then it makes it easy to co-parent.
Yeah. And sometimes I think it's just putting on a fake smile face. Like my sister, she's had some just awful experiences with the other parent, but she'll tell me like, yeah, they came over and they dropped off my daughter, and I just smiled and said, nice to see you. and, have a great day. And she's like, I really wanted to give him the middle finger, but I didn't because, my daughter doesn't need to see that. Like, whew, that's just a really great example, I think, of self-control.
And it can be hard, and it's okay to have bad days and actually to show, like, I try to be positive all the time and just to see the silver lining in everything. But I try to share with her, like, it's okay. Like, if I'm not feeling well, or if it's just, I'm just not having a bad day and struggling to, be positive, it's okay. Like, I teach my daughter, it's okay to have a bad day. Not everything, every day is going to be great, and that's okay. But there are great moments in every day. So I practice like gratitude with her as well. So she understands, like, if she's not feeling well or having a bad day, that's okay. We all have it. So I want her to understand that her emotions are okay to feel. And it's okay to ask for help if she needs that as well.
Jen, I assume probably, does your child go back and forth? So does she spend time with her father as well?
He does.
So
She
have
does.
you noticed, I've noticed with my kids that when they come back to my house after they've been away, there's like a day or two that is kind of transitional, like maybe emotions are high or like their moods are off. Do you notice that with your daughter?
I do. And it's, she's so cute because she'll call me daddy because she's so used to calling, like, when she's over there, daddy,
Yeah.
or like the bonus mom. And then she's like, oh, so sorry, mommy. And I'm like, no. I was like, you don't have to apologize. It's okay. I mean, I would be confusing for me too. And so it does take a little bit for them to settle in. She's been so resilient though through the whole thing, and she's already 5. I divorced when she was officially, it was like 1.5 years, but we separated when she was 8 months old. So all she knows is kind of going from one house to the other, which I think has made it a little bit easier for everything. But it does take a little bit for her to transition, and I try to just be there to support her because my parents are still together, which is very lucky, but I don't know what it feels like to be her. And I try to nurture her and do all those things. And let's say she wants to see daddy. I'm like, let's make it happen. I'll message him, like, let's do it. And I know, like, I'm sure there's other, parents going through this, like, no, you can't see your dad or whatever, but it's just whatever she wants to do to feel good and supported, I will make happen. Yeah. And so, but it can be tough though, that, the first, I would say half a day or a day, she's like transitioning, but then she swings right back into it. But it also, I realize, in the future, we're lucky because if they're going back and forth, they're going to be more resilient to new environments, right? Mm-hmm. And more confident in that as well, which I kind of like.
Yeah,
so.
I love that. And for anyone in our audience who is transitioning into co-parenting, I know for my kids, so I was married for 12 years and my oldest is 10. So she understands more what's going on and she's used to mom and dad always together. And now it's totally separate. But I have one daughter who every time she goes to dad's, she screams and cries, I don't want to go to daddy's. And then when she gets there, she loves it. And then same thing when she comes back to my house. I don't want to go to mommy's. I want to stay with dad. And I've had to tell my ex, like, we cannot take that personally. Like, she's, so if that's happening in your house, know that that's normal. I've talked to other single moms and they've had kids too who like vocalize they don't want to go. And then once they get there, they're fine and they're great. And then same thing, they don't want to come to my house because they miss daddy. But it just takes a day and then everyone's good.
Yeah.
And so just know that's normal.
I remember when I was little, because my parents divorced when I was 4. And to this day, I still remember I'd be laying in my bed if I got in trouble at my dad's house. Then I would lay in bed or wherever I was and I'd cry, Mommy, I want my mommy. And then when I was at my mom's house, if I got in trouble, all of a sudden it was Daddy.
Yeah.
I want my So then, like kids can be manipulative a bit too on
I've
that.
started noticing my kids try to manipulate me a little bit.
And
I'm
that's why you have to be on the same page.
Yeah.
And because that's why you see in the transition, because they're coming from a house with totally different rules, right? And then they're coming to mom, which is a totally different rules. So now it's kind of like pushing the envelope of what they can get away with. So that's why the communication between parents are the important, because then you guys may not have the same rules, but it's like then they're not manipulating the way through it. It's like kind of like, okay, I know what's going on. I know what's going on.
So I've noticed since, my children go 50% of the time away, like when they come back, when they start acting naughty or bad, like I don't want to discipline them as much as I used to because I'm like, oh, I want them to like me and love me. And I had a conversation with a friend and she was a child of divorce and she said, you know what? me and my siblings that were older, like they were 18 when their kids got divorced, she's like, turned out great. But I had 2 younger siblings, and at the time my mom did the same thing, like didn't want to discipline my kids. She's like, my like younger siblings are hot mess as adults now, and she's like, stay firm in your disciplining, like your children need it more than ever. And so I do find myself like, because I've always been like, I have rules, and but now being divorced, I'm like, oh, am I too hard on my kids? But I have to tell myself like, they need structure and discipline more than ever. And sometimes they're like, we don't like you, Dad's nicer, and I'm like, oh, no, it's fine. You still have to go to timeout. And so if you're in that same boat, just remember, like, it sucks, and I have felt the same thing, and probably you too, Jen, that like stand firm in your rules and your boundaries at home, even though you're like, I don't want to be, I don't want to
we should do a whole episode just on disciplining your kids, because I've seen firsthand the effects of not having discipline and how that, like, what a child who doesn't have discipline throughout their life, what the type of adult they turn into, and it's not good.
It's not good. Yeah.
It's not good. We could do a whole episode on that.
Does your ex and you discipline differently too? Like, is there a big dichotomy between those two?
Yes, there is a little bit. We try to sync up on, like sleeping schedules and how we discipline and do different things. But it can be difficult because sometimes they allow her to do things and she'll say, yeah, I did this over here. And I'm like, you did? It's like, okay. So, and it's one of those things where you can't control what happens over there. You can only control what happens, when they're with you. And so, and I can 100% agree. I used to be like, all right, I'm not going to discipline because she's going to love being in my place, give her all the toys, all the things. And I'm like, I can't do that anymore. You just can't. But, understanding that discipline, they will respect you so much more and love you, that much more for that discipline later on in life. So definitely don't feel like, oh my gosh, I don't want them to say like, oh, I just want to go to daddy's, because I know that hurts and that dings, at your heart. But know you're doing the right thing by disciplining them. That's the most important thing you can do. But I feel completely on that when it's like, I want them to love me and love it over here.
Yeah, that's true. Because it just like one of my friends, she has sister, so she'll know I'm talking about her. So I'm just gonna say her name. I'm not gonna say her name, but she's a really good friend of mine. She lives up in like Logan, and she's divorced, and she's like, when the kids are over there, like her last thing she called me, she's like, I need to have access to his Facebook so I can see what the kids are doing, because he posts a lot, and I need to see what they're doing. Like it's trying to teach her, even like a therapist, like, their time with their dad is their time. Like, as much control that you would want to have in that time. Like, she's like, am I wrong for wanting to see his face? Like, yeah. Like, he doesn't have to. And then I'm like, if you, like, just enjoy the time that they're gone, and things are not, probably you're not going to like half the thing he's doing.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but she's, like, really obsessed with, like, I need to see what they're doing, what they tell them. Like, they get home, and I'm like, please don't ask them.
Yeah. I can see me being that way if that was the case. Even when I go out of town, I'm like, what are you guys doing? What are you doing? Oh, okay.
You have to be okay with that too.
You
just don't know what they do.
You have
over
to
there.
give the control.
And I also tell myself, like, when they get home, like, do not interrogate them. Like, just, I always say one sweet and sour. Like, what was one sweet thing that happened while you were gone? What was one sour thing? And then we move on, because I don't want to be that person who's like, what'd you do there?
Because they'll just hate it.
Yeah, and as long as you trust your ex, like, they're safe and they're happy, like, do you, like, I'm really grateful that my ex is an incredible dad. And so I know that they're safe there and they're happy, but I don't want to, like, get in the place where I'm always asking my kids every little detail,
That makes sense. Yeah. And I imagine at first, when you're first separating from your ex, there's probably a lot of higher emotions and hurts and pains from, what it is and so I imagine at first that there might be like, hey, we're not Facebook friends, we're not Instagram friends, because it hurts too much to see you. But I know for me, that's how it was at first too, when my son's dad and I separated. But then after time healed, I was able to become friends with him on social media, and now I do see the pictures, because the pain's not there anymore. It doesn't hurt, and now I think that it's a little bit different in that experience. But that reminds me a little bit, when it comes to the romance side, dating. Do you date? I already know the answer to the question, but I'm going to ask for the audience here. Like, what's been your dating experience or no dating experience as a single mom?
So I was in a very long, serious relationship. So I actually went from, I got divorced, and then I got in a long-term relationship. And Unfortunately, that ended. I ended up getting cheated on, which was not something that I was,
I'm sorry.
expecting. Yeah, it was a very, and I actually caught it. So I caught him red-handed, unfortunately. But I realized, you know what, I'm going to take this time to focus on me. And that's okay to do. I feel like it's easy. And I feel like for even women more than men, that you have to go out and find someone, right, to support you or do whatever it is. But you're strong on your own. You can do hard things, and you don't need someone else to be an amazing parent. You just focus on you. You focus on, your daughter, your kids, whatever that is, and you will get through it. And that's what I'm doing right now, is I'm taking that time for me to make sure that I'm in a good place. And I don't want, like, dating is hard. I'm just going to say it is, because I've met most of my, my husband and my last boyfriend at conferences when I was speaking. And so I've tried apps and different things, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not getting what I was thinking. I ended up just paying $100 for this like executive, like fancy app. And I was just like, this isn't for me. And so right now I'm not on any apps. I'm not doing anything. I let my friends know if they know of a good single man. I would, please introduce me, but I'm just focusing on me. And I want my daughter to see that I can be strong on my own without someone like that. And it can be hard too, because when you break up with someone, she asked about him, and that's one of the hardest things when you're dating someone, especially as a single mom, and you're in that long-term relationship. That person isn't only dating you, but also like your daughter in a way, right? You're welcoming that man into your daughter's life. And so it can be difficult sometimes, because I try to just distract her and, tell her that, we're not together anymore. That's okay. Sometimes that happens, but it can be hard for the kids as well. And so you have to make sure, like, when I'm dating someone, I want to know, like, they're in it for the long haul, which I thought this last relationship was. And then I unfortunately got shocked and surprised that it wasn't. But, it happens, and it's okay. So
yeah, I think that there's probably, even in that process, like, I think for me, with my son, when I was in that short, it didn't date very long, but my rule was, until it's serious, like, I'm not going to introduce my kids to the guys that I date until like it's, hey, we want to turn this into a possible marriage or something like that. Then that's when I introduced Kanan to Owen. But I had dated 2 other guys prior to Owen during my during that break, and my kid Kanan did not meet the other 2 at all. Yeah. So that helped, I think, a lot too. Obviously, it can't solve everything, but at least, like, if you can at least protect them from just the casual anything, like, until it's like we're serious, I think that can make a big difference.
For sure.
Yeah.
And to that point, when it comes to like divorce agreements for someone who's maybe still working through it, it's usually like customary that where you have to wait 6 months to introduce your kids to the significant other, for you and for the dad or the other parent. And so if it's not in there, make sure it's in there at least 6 months. And I think, because you don't want, yes, maybe you can control yourself and you're just like, yes, I'm going to make sure that's separated and make sure it's healthy. They may not think the same thing, and you don't want your daughter or kids or whoever to see the other parent just continually dating. That's not healthy for the kids to see as well. So ensuring that's in your divorce agreement is a good thing.
Smart.
That's great. Wow.
Thank you so much.
All good information.
Yeah.
Well, Jennifer, we have just so enjoyed, you being with us today. I know that you've watched the show as well, and that's how we ended up talking about it. And I was like, wait, let's get you on the show and talk about, your experience. Is there any final advice, anything that we didn't ask that you think, I want women to know this before, we close for today?
Yes, I would just say, all you need is you, right? You want to be able to stand on your own 2 feet and do what you love. And you want to be true to yourself, and not trying to be someone else to be with somebody. And when it comes to being a single parent, it's okay to have hard days and hard times, but make sure to ask for help when you need it. And it's totally okay to ask for help but just know, like, stay positive and know that things will get better. Everything works out for a reason. And two other fun tips I do with my daughter is I always ask her, what have you failed at today? Because I love like asking that question because because it, you know, instead of being like, what did you succeed at? But what did you, first attempt at learning is what everyone calls failing, and it's in her books as well. But I want to encourage her to try new things. So I'm like, what have you failed at today? What did you learn about that experience? And then I'll always ask her, not what do you want to be when you grow up, but what do you want to be right now? And so, like, if she wants to design shirts or write books, I will make that happen. We'll create the LLC, we'll create the website, we'll start doing it. So, yes, but just know that you're not alone, and to reach out and to tell your story as well, because you'll help other women and single parents.
I love that. That's good advice for me.
So good advice.
Like,
I know.
what did I fail at today? Like, stop being afraid of that word. And then this whole idea, I think of, instead of like, what do I want to be later on? Like, what can you be right now? Because if we keep pushing off what we want to be later, like, are we ever even going to get there? Like, we got to try things along the way. Oh,
awesome. Great, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. Well, Jennifer, where can people follow you and follow your weather shows, follow your speaking? Where are you most active online that we can follow?
You can find me on TikTok and Instagram, just Jennifer Weather. Twitter is at @jwatson_WX. And then you can also find me on the Weather Channel. There's also a Weather Channel app where you can watch the series I'm on, which is Weather Gone Viral and Weird Earth. And then I'm also talking on stages just about everywhere. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, that's a wrap for the episode of The Brave Talk Show. If you're watching us on YouTube, there are more episodes that you will love on that window to the right, and we will see you on the other side.
I have some questions for you. Hey, brave girl.